Good evening, everyone, and welcome to BT's Fly Tying Friday. Today, the 13th of February, we had a little change, and I'm going to end up being your presenter. We're going to be weaving Australia into Montana, and you'll find out pretty soon what that is. Maybe. Remember, this is the 13th and it's Friday, so Friday the 13th could be bad. The weekly tip is going to be heat and body. Anyway, and we're the Beatties from Boise, Idaho. And getting started tonight, I am going to start out with a PowerPoint, giving you just a general idea of the direction in which we'll be heading. And we'll get over here to that. Australia meets Montana is the name of this PowerPoint. And well, I tell you what brought me to mind on this is a friend in Australia, Dave Wilson, sent me some stuff, and you're gonna be seeing it here just in a minute. And I decided to take his product and mold it into a fly that was developed back in the 20s, 30s, 40s in the U.S. in Montana, actually. And we're going to start by mixing it up. We're going to take Australian Tukidale sheep hair and add it to Montana fly designer Franz B. Pott. And I know that sounds crazy. There's a picture of the sheep there on the left, and they look like they got wool, but as you'll soon see, that's really kind of a long hair on those sheep. But anyway,
Cute little sheep.
I don't know how little they are, but anyway, they're yeah, right. Anyway, the Tukidale sheep hair. Notice that I said capitalized hair. The Tukidale sheep originated in New Zealand in the mid 60s. When a ram was born, somehow or another, something wrong anyway, it had a dominant T gene, whatever the heck that means. It means hair instead of wool. And anyway, the Tukidale hair is about 35 to 45 microns. We've talked about some of this in the past. In fact, I think you'll remember in a recent program, we talked about our muskrat belly fur dubbing, and it was 12 or 13 microns, just to give you an idea. But anyway, by comparison, human hair is 55 to 100 microns, and elk hair is about 100 microns plus or minus. So anyway, just to give you a comparison, we are going to be doing some things we normally do with 100 micron hair, elk hair, and we're going to be substituting Tukidale sheep hair, which is a little bit smaller. We're going to introduce now Franz Pott. For those of you who don't know, Franz Pott was a German barber and wig maker who emigrated to Montana in the 20s. Uh, in time, he developed a woven hair fly called the Sandy Mite, probably one of the most famous patterns of at least a 20-year period there from the 30s to the 50s. Other similar patterns soon followed, and we'll be talking about one of those again tonight as well. At a time when a fly would cost about a dime each, or as I recall it, when I first started selling flies back in the 50s, it was like a dime each or two for 15 cents. Anyway, that's what was the going price. Franz was getting 35 cents each. In fact, the first ones that I bought in the early 60s, I paid three for a buck at a gas station in Montana. Anyway, just to give you an idea, they were a little bit more difficult to tie, strong as can be, though, tough. Anyway, and that's the picture of the Sandy Mite that was developed by Franz Pott. Moving along, tonight we're going to offer a new fly based on the Franz Pott design and that gift from Dave Wilson in Australia, that package of Tukidale sheep that I talked about last week. Well, we're going to take a look at that here, and we'll start out tonight with the recipe for the Tukidale Mite. And as you can see, the hook is a dry fly hook, size is 6 to 16, thread black or whatever you want it to be. The body is Tukidale sheep hair. The woven belly will be orange floss. Again, that can be your choice. The hackle will be woven Tukidale hair. The head is thread, and the snell is optional. And quite frankly, in today's world, there's a whole bunch of people probably don't even know what a snell is. But anyway, they're not used much these days. Anyway, so what does this fly look like? Well, I've got one for you. And there is the Tukidale mite that we're going to tie tonight. Give you a little bit of a look at that guy. And that's what the sheep hair looks like when you weave it and all that kind of stuff. And we're, like I said, we're going to have fun with that tonight. And here's all the stuff that we're going to be working with. As you can see, there's some white hair down there, and that's Tukidale sheep hair. Now, what I don't know is how well that takes dye, but I'll bet you it takes dye just like anything else that sheep produces. It takes the dye really, really well. But anyway, as you can see, we've got thread there, lots of different sheep hair. But I wanted to talk about one thing here, and we're going to step into our weekly tip for just a moment. The weekly tip, we're going to talk about heat and in body options. And it's going to be broken up because first off, I wanted to talk about the heat. And let's get back to here. And I want you to notice that, well, some of this sheep hair is crooked. It's most of it has got a curve to it. Now, some of this came just like it is. Now, this one came just like this. It's fairly straight. These, I had to do something to them. And this one right here was as bad as this one, and I did some work with it. And so what did I do? Well, you've been through this before with us. Several years ago, we talked about straightening things, materials, and changing them with a hair dryer on hot. And that's what I use. I'm not going to use it because it tends to blow trash around real bad too. Makes a bad mess. And this is Friday the 13th. I don't want to take any chances. But anyway, I've already straightened out enough hair to work tonight. And then I'm going to show you another way to straighten hair as we go into the process. But there's one thing I wanted to just pause for a moment. And I want Jim Ferguson to listen up. Because when we first introduced the using heat to straighten out materials and so forth, Jim and I did this on Zoom, and it's a crest feather that's really nice, perfect for putting on the fly, and its neighbor that was directly adjacent to it on the cape that's crooked. And I'm just going to show you a close-up of that. And there's the one that's crooked. It still is. We didn't put any heat on it. And per Jim's instructions, there's the one that we fixed. And that was what, Jim, almost 3 years ago, wasn't it? It was a while anyway. It's and you can see it's still nice and straight. It would be a perfect crest feather to put onto a fly as compared to its neighbor, which was crooked. But we all know now that the heat gun or the hair dryer will straighten that right out for you. Anyhow, now we'll just set all that aside, get back over here. And let me hang that up, and we'll talk about that again one day, Jim. I told you that we'd come back and redress that just a little bit. And anyway, what I'm going to start out with tonight is a crooked piece of hair, and I'm going to work with that and show you how to make it fall in line and do what we want it to do. And we're going to start tonight over here at the vise. And I'll start by taking the road map fly out. Just set that aside. And we need to weave the hackle. And just getting back here, if you can just take a real close shot on that, Gretchen. Yeah, you can see that hackle there, it's woven around a thread, a double thread weaving loop or whatever you want to call it. And that's what we're going to start out tonight, is weaving this Tukidale hair into hackle. Now I'll get that out of there. And one of the things that I need to do that is a device that I made myself. And that's just a hook that's been cut to There we go. Good. Thank you, Gretch. Perfect. You can see just all I've got there is a hook so that I can hook my loop that I'm going to be braiding with through that. Now, if you'll go to the wide shot, Gretchen, that one right there. And what I need to do now is I'm taking a piece of this thread, and this is a pretty heavy thread, and I'm using it tonight over what I normally do for tying flies because it shows up pretty good where the lighter weight stuff that I use for tying flies doesn't show up very good to photograph. And I've just got a loop of that right here, and I'm going to loop that around a vise stem that I have off on the side. And I want you to notice that right here, oops, I'll get that. Right here, I have a knot in that, and that's a very important thing. And I usually move that knot around. I just tie it where it feels like happening. But I wanted it to be close to the vise for photography purposes tonight. Otherwise, you don't really care. You just tie it so it's someplace. But you've got to shove your woven hackle up against the knotted thread. So I'm going to take a couple of wraps around here just to anchor that really well. And now I'm going to come back here and anchor it there so it doesn't come undone. There we go. I'll trim off the extra. And now you should be able to see a loop here. And I move my finger in there, and that's the loop that we're going to be braiding that hair into. And I'm going to start by preparing what Pot called, I've got it written down here, and didn't want to mix it up. It's called a hackle pickup, is what the pot company called it. And I got that from the archives when Gretchen and I wrote a book about this, and we'll talk about that book here in a little bit. But we're going to start now with the Tukidale hair. And you can see that's a pretty curvy piece. And I'm going to straighten that out before I try to weave it, because otherwise my hackle will be going helter-skelter in every direction. So I'm just going to pull a clump out of here. One of the things that's interesting about this stuff is just like any hair, elk hair or any of them, you've got the long ones in there, but there's quite a bit of under fur there as well. Now, the first thing I learned this afternoon, I want you to notice I'm laying my scissors down. I can't tell you how many times in practicing for this that I ended up cutting the thread before I could even get started because I was moving my hands around and just bumped against the thread loop, and it went bad on me. But anyway, I'm just pulling the smaller stuff out, the crooked stuff, and I need to get down to a fairly small bundle of this as compared to what I've got now. But you can see I'm getting some wild fibers out of there right now. Here's the short ones. Those go away. The two skinny ones. Until I get this down about to where I want that to go, which is right about there. There's a bad one right there. You probably can't see all that, but you can see what I'm working on here. Now, this has got a curve in it, as you well know. There's another way you can straighten things out, and our salmon fly tying friends do this all the time. They do this on the crest feather. They take their thumbnail and their forefinger, and they just put a series of crimps on the outside of the bend that they want to widen or to eliminate. And as you can see, that is much straighter than it was. Let me give it a couple of little kinks, and that pretty well straightened that hair out. Now I'm going to put that hair into a clip because I find it's a lot easier to weave if I kind of hold everything in place with a clip. And that's just the hackle pliers. And it's kind of uneven here. I'll just go ahead and cut that off. And good. And now I'm going to pause for a second. I'll set this down while I get my close-up glasses. And now we're going to talk about the Franz pot name. Whoops, I just came loose here. Let me tighten this back up. There, I think I've got it. Okay, good. And when we wrote our book on weaving, there was a chapter number 9, was on George Grant's method of weaving, another Montanan, and his name is George F. Grant. And the F, I figured out if I use that as a way to remember that I've got a loop here, and there's a bottom strand in the loop, and there's a top strand, and you put the material in front of the bottom strand if you're doing a George Grant weave. If you're doing a Franz pot, well, his name was Franz B. Pot, and well, guess what? We used the B in his to indicate that the the hackle pliers goes in front of with the thread behind based on his name. So that doesn't mean anything to you. For tonight's purpose, all you care about is that we're going to move this in front of the bottom strand and behind the top strand. And there it hangs right there between those strands. Now I'm just going to pull over here and pull that top strand up and push the hair through to the other side. Grab it and pull down. Now I'll come up, going to the other side, and go around the top strand, pull it up. We've just completed the weave. Now we got to slide that up against the knot. And I'll take the clip off. And I'll have to put that clip back on. Well, I lost my other clip. I'll go get one and I'll come right back. All right, there we go. And it's a good idea to keep the woven hair under control. I've already got a bad one in there, but I'm not going to worry about it as we prepare the next ones. Now, rather than going through all this process of picking this up and pulling hairs out and all like that, I've already prepared 4 other um, bundles, and we're just going to again pass it through, thread to the bottom one to the back, pull the threads apart, push it through to the other side, pull down, go to the top, grab the top strand, open them up, slip the hair through, the weave is done. Now, I did learn one thing about this. If you try to pull on this piece that I've got in my hand right now and make it slide over to meet its friend, it'll never budge. But if you take your finger and slip it in between the 2 strands, it'll slide right over just fine. We'll just take that out, take our clip off, and there you can see we've got two of those done. Let me pull that around so you can see how they're woven there. And that needs to be tightened up just a little bit. There we go. Now we're going to grab another hair pickup. Back, the bottom thread goes to the back, between the 2, between and down, up and around, through, That one is finished. And we're starting to get our hackle coming together. And I'll slip that clip in there to keep things from coming apart.
You were saying earlier today that this is more difficult than weaving with the horsehair.
Oh, the horsehair and elk hair are a piece of cake. This stuff is a challenge, and I blame it on Friday the 13th. It's got to be that. But it's a real challenge. Anyway, pull the bottom down, push it to the back, go between the two, divide them, take the hair through and down, around, pull them apart again, back through, pull it over, and we have full pictures and so forth in our book on that, and I'll show you that here in just a little bit, if you'll remind me of that, Gretchen. I'll get done. Before I do the body, I'll show the book. Do you see how that's all coming together now?
Hold it up.
Okay, let me pull it up there. All right, and now we're going to do the last one. That should pretty well finish that hackle up for a size 10. It'll be just about right. Push the thread to the back on the bottom.
Now, for a smaller fly, do you do fewer
You do fewer
bunches, or
yeah.
do you do less hair in each bunch?
Less hair in each bunch and fewer bunches.
Both.
Now, what we got that pretty well done. And if you want to pop in close on that, Gretch.
You need to tighten it.
Anyway, so what I'm going to do now is I am going to take a piece of thread and tie this off so it won't come apart on me. And then we'll weave the body after I show you the book and all that stuff. But get that right there. All right, good. All right, now let's take a piece of thread, and I'm just going to pull a piece off of this right here. Lay my scissors down. And I'll just throw a knot around like that. And now I'll just take and run a few half hitches over that. And I'll just throw a knot in that, keep it from coming apart.
Keeping the threads together.
I'm keeping the threads together, and what I'm going to do is move that clip around after. What I'm doing is building a stopgap here. So I can shove this now up next to that last strand so it won't come undone. And now we have a pickup completed, ready to go on the fly. Yeah, let me lift that up there for you. All right, now I'm going to cut this off of right here. Get rid of that thread. By the way, Dick Shaw, I've changed the way I do stuff based on your wonderful little anchor here. So thank you again. I don't know if they can see the anchor when you go to the wide shot or not, but it's right up here.
Oh, yeah.
That's
The magnet.
Oh yeah, that's wonderful. Just love that, Dick. Thanks a lot. Dick Shaw made that for me. Anyway, so I'm just going to cut this. And now what I've got here is the hackle waiting to go on the hook. Now, before I get too crazy here, I try to put this on the hook with all these different lengths of hair, and it's kind of a challenge. So I'm just going to trim those off a little bit. And they're still longer than I need, but there they are. I'll set that down.
Now, if you were tying a bunch of these, you'd probably weave all of the
Oh yeah,
hackle and have several hackles ready and then start the flies.
exactly, Gretch, exactly. I'll just get some of this out of my way now. And before we get into the weaving of the body, I want to talk to you a little bit about the book. It's one of the ways that we're able to bring this to you every Friday. There they are. And in fact, the book that we're using tonight is located in the picture, Art of the Weave. And
It's upper left
yep,
book.
yep, the upper left. And here she is. And the chapters that pertain to the Montana and the fly fishing and the flies built in Montana, chapter 9 is George Grant, and he was very well known for braided hackle flies in Montana in the 30s and 40s and 50s on up to the 90s even. And Franz Pop started in the 20s through until about the 50s when he passed away. Anyway, but the chapter 10 in the book is the one on the pot style weave. And that's the way the pot flies were sold in the stores with a little tag, if you will, and the name of the fly on it and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, what I wanted to show you was the one document that I got out of the pot company archives. Here it is. That of the pot archives is that document there. It says figure 10.7, and it says in red, pot fly company hackle making information. This came right out of their archives. It was very worn and bent and faded and terrible. I took a picture of it, of this document with my camera, and it took me 2 days to go into it with Photoshop, into that photograph, and to realign and completely rebuild this document so that this would be accurate in the book. And that's straight from the pot company archives.
What I love about this is it really, that one picture, the number 3 picture, really reminds you which way your thread has to go to weave.
Through the weave. I'll hold that up there for you.
If you haven't woven in a month or two, sometimes you kind of forget. And if you just go to that, you go, oh yeah, I remember now.
You see that? Let me pull it back and come back.
I think you could see it good.
There, it focused. Bouncing in and out. But anyway, that M that you see there is the way it has to go through the strands of the weaving loop. Now, I know that in looking at it just today, just now this evening, that it probably looks complicated as heck. And the truth of the matter is, it isn't complicated. It's pretty easy to do once you get started. I'm ready now to move into the body, and I'll start by going into the vise here and just taking my little hook out. And that's what I just put it in the clip so I can find it later when I want it. It seems to work pretty good for me. Anyway, and I'm going to want to get a hook in the vise. And I'm going to slip over here to the tying area and start out with some orange floss. And let's see, I've got a bundle of it just about like this one. It's a little bit crooked, but when you're doing the body, it doesn't really make too much difference. So I'll just leave that one over at the vise. I'll grab this for right now and head over to the vise. And I'll start my tying thread back about 2 eye widths back from the hook eye. One of the things about this hackle, it isn't like wrapping chicken hackle. It takes up a lot of space because as you can see, if I hold this up, the base of that is the stem of the hackle that's got the threads in it, whatever you want to call it, it covers quite a bit of country. Anyway, set that aside. And let me just wrap towards the back. Get to the back of the shank, not quite all the way to the end of the shank, almost. I'll come back forward and I'll stop just shy of my starting point, just because I want to account for or accommodate the bulk of the material that I'll be using for the body. Let's see here. I want the longest ones I can get. That looks pretty good right there. Now I want to get rid of all the shorties and the crud. All right, good. I got most of the what I call crud out, the short ones and the fur and under fur and all that stuff. It sure is different than elk hair, but Dave told me in Australia they use it in place of elk hair because, well, quite frankly, they don't have elk in Australia. I'm going to cut this off. I'll just do it over the waistband and come back up here and tie it on. Now I'm going to take and push that so it's on the underside of the hook. And we'll let thread torque continue to push that material to the bottom of the hook. That's where it needs to be as I wrap to the back. You see how that's just sucking that to the bottom of the hook. Go. Now I don't want that to move on me, so I am going to throw in a whip finish right there real quick. But it's one of the few times that I do a whip finish and I go back over itself because I want to end up with that whip finish right there at the very end of the shank. That's kind of important. And I'll just slip this now so that the thread is on the other side of the hook point. And, oh, one of the things I want you to notice is that I'm using a much shorter bobbin than I normally do. Most of my bobbins are, oh, I'll grab one here. They have a barrel on them like that as compared to the one that I'm using tonight. And the weaving I found is a lot easier if you have a little bit shorter barrel on your bobbin. So that's whatever works for you, but that's what works for me. Now I'm going to make my first turn here in front of the thread, complete turn around the shank, bring it around to my side, bring the thread forward over that little bundle of hair, and take a loop around the body, or the shank of the hook, and then pull it to the back. And now I'm going to pull this up so you can see the belly start to appear as we work our way forward. Now I got to push that back down to get it down there where I need it. And now another wrap around the bod. Pull that up tight. Bring the belly up around and hold it. And by the way, that's anchored there now. And then I'll bring it up and over, let that hang there, and I'll just keep working my way forward to the front of the hook. Just making sure it's real easy to get those little stitches that you're putting on the bottom of the belly to get them out of a line if you're not watching careful to just exactly what you got going on here. By the way, Fran's pot was so secretive that for years he wove the hackle himself, and he hired college girls in Missoula to make the bodies, because that could be figured out pretty easy. But he was a ex-wig maker in Germany, and he didn't want things getting out as to how he did that. So let me just flip that up there, and now you can see the woven body on the bottom there. And now I'm just going to pull this over and tie it down. Whoops, slipped on me there. Okay, tie it down, and I don't want it all in one place because I want to distribute that waste around the hook a little bit, so it'll make a better hackle platform for the hackle that I'm going to wrap here in a minute. So I'll just spread it out just a little bit. And there we go. And I'll just start trimming this hair out. And now it's time to switch to the black for the head. I'll just reach over to my materials area and grab my spool of black. Set that aside. Now I am not going to use the one that I made just a few minutes ago, because that thicker thread is too thick for a size 10. It would be better on a size 6 or an 8 maybe. But I've got some that I've already made that I'll use, and you can see that this thread that I use for the weaving strand is a lot smaller. Also, the weave on this one is 5, and this one is 4. Notice that I put a piece of tape on this so I could find the little knot that I put on there so that I can move it off out of the way after I tie this on. That's kind of important too. There we go. Now I can pull that little slip knot that I have there, and I'm just going to continue to anchor that down. I think I'll pull it back at an angle. I'll dogleg it just like we do our regular hackle when we're tying regular hackle. I'll dogleg that stem in there, which is really thread. And now we're ready to wrap. And I'm going to get my pair of hackle pliers, because I find the thread really hard to hang on to. I don't know why, but my hands are a little bit crippled and they don't. So I'm just going to wrap this around. Until I get up there to the top where it meets the tie-in point from before. And now I'll dogleg that thread back. And I'll get my bodkin out, because even though these hackles aren't trimmed yet, they do kind of bundle up and kind of get in the way, and I'd like them to at least spread out and about. And get the job done the way I want them. There we go. They're all looking pretty good now. So let me just build a nice smooth head in there, making sure that everything's tucked up there just the way I want it. Get my whip finish tool. Tighten that up. And now it's time to trim the hackle. Well, as you can see, all I got to do is kind of pinch this all together like that. And normally I would just reach in and cut that off right over the bin where the fly is going to go. But it would end up in the trash bin now, so I'll just do it for the camera like this. So I can pull them all up. And that trims right even with the bend of the hook. And there you've got a completed Tukidale mite.
So Al, talk to us a little bit about what you think about the practicality of this. So obviously, you started earlier that he was able to charge 30 something cents instead of 10 cents, got a premium. So he wouldn't have been able to do that unless, it had a reputation for working and fishing. And what instead of the Tukidale, what did he use? Did he use elk? And why do you think that demanded a premium and sold well versus something that was simpler to tie?
Well, good question, Joel. Appreciate that. I was hoping someone would do that. I can't tell you how good the Tukidale is going to be. The 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 couple of flies I tied yesterday and two this afternoon, and this one makes this is the fifth fly that I've tied out of this stuff. It looks pretty decent. How it's going to act in the water, I don't know. The ones that I fished myself were tied with elk mane or horse mane, and Franz Pot imported um, hides. This is a Chinese badger. And I'm not going to tear down all this stuff. I mean, you can see what's back there. It's just a badger skin, and it's got one of the things about Chinese badger is that it's a pretty what am I trying to say? It's got pretty tough hair, and it's fairly long as compared to American badger. It's probably another 3/4 of an inch longer on the average as compared to an American badger skin. And but that's what Pot used a lot of, and then after he was in business for a while, he went to horsehair and elk mane, or horse mane and elk mane. That's what seems to work pretty well. Any other questions?
Answer the question.
The question was, okay, well, it's very durable. It's one hell of a fishing fly. That's all I can tell you. I cannot tell you how many fish I caught on the darn thing. I know some guys, old timers in Montana, that would tie one on in the spring, and except for changing their tippet every now and then, they'd have the same fly all year. It just was tough and caught fish.
So yeah, there's two answers to that. The customer is willing to pay that price because it catches fish and it is durable. And the tire needs to charge that price because it takes a little longer than an average fly.
I got to tell you, commercially, if somebody wants some of these, it's $200 a fly. I'll tell you that right now. And you'll get three, and that's the end of it. I don't want to tie any more of the damn thing. So that's it. So, and I'm joking. I don't want to tie any commercially. I've tied a lot of these with elk hair back in the 80s. I tied them before I learned how to do the weave on the hackle. I would spin the hackle, and there's a lot of fly tiers that were trying to copy Pot, and they spun hackle and had a different way of weaving, and it looks sort of the same and fished pretty close to the same, but nothing beat the way that woven hackle and body of his did. It was just, I don't know what it was, but it sure worked.
Al, can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay. I'm having trouble with my microphone. You just made one revolution around there. When you tied the hackle in, you made one turn around. That was it. Is that normal?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
And so you're gonna have to adjust your hair accordingly. And I would have to take out to go smaller than a 10 to a 12. I'd have to drop one um, hackle bundle out or a hair bundle out. And when I do that, it's not going to quite reach all the way around. Well, one of the things about this woven hackle is you can slip it back and forth and make it lay consistently in a circle around the hackle area, if you will. And then you can just tip it up and put glue in it, and you can see there are places in that where it isn't quite as thick as the others the way it's woven. And
Mike Kelly says, isn't it said that the Sandy Mite was the top selling fly in Montana for 50 years?
absolutely. And George Grant is the one that made that comment. And understand that George Grant and Franz Pot were competitors, both trying to figure out the weaving and all that kind of stuff. And that was what one competitor was saying about another.
And then David wants to know, how do you fish it?
I've fished it for the biggest part, some upstream and then strip it towards me as it's coming downstream. But for the biggest part, it's across, swing it down. And, one of the things that I've told you this before, but if the water's flowing this way, you cast and it swings down, leave it hang downstream from you for a bit. Don't start retrieving right away. Pull about 3 more feet of slack out of your reel and just wait a second and then drop it. Let it drop downstream about 3 foot. I don't care if it's just this one or just a regular wet fly. My biggest river fish of all time was with that particular technique, modified somewhat, but yeah, you swing it over, let it hang for a while because the fish will follow it in, wonder what the heck's going on, and then you let it drop down 3 feet and boom. Just
Kind of
drives
like
them nuts.
called the laser ring lift.
I know what it is. They can't say that I've ever tried it. I don't know. I'll expect a report from you, Jim, because I can't say that I've tried it.
Al,
Works.
when you get,
Al, I catch most of my fish on wet flies with the laser wing lift at the end.
Okay,
They hit it.
Explain
It
the
just
license lift.
it's down and across, and at the very end, you just lift the rod, and many times they will hit it. It's like an emerger coming to the surface.
Oh, sure. Got
You
it.
know, is the way to think of it. It's the way I think of it. I don't know.
Really,
And
in
if it
some-
and if the
some-
fish doesn't hit it right away, what you do is you strip out about 6 to 8 feet of line, and this fly will sink back down, and then as it rises back up, it acts like that emerger.
Gotcha.
And I think actually you're doing the same thing, only what you start to do is start to retrieve it after you let it hang, and then it nails it. So
Mhm.
it's coming back up.
But
from the-
but on the retrieve, I let it drop downstream before I start the retrieve.
Right, right. Then as you
Yeah.
start
Yeah.
retrieving it, it comes back up
Yeah.
again.
I've read about the Liza ring lift, but I never really totally understood it until this minute. Thank you, Eric.
Al, I've got some to share when you get to that.
Okay, yeah. Is it something that we want to do for this, or I've got another one to do yet?
It's this one, the pots flies. I've got some, and I've also tied some, but we
Okay,
can
just-
wait.
Okay, well let's do it in the sharing section then, because I'm dinking around here, and now I'm just going to go ahead and tie the next fly.
Al, before you do that, how readily available is that tiki hair in the States?
The Tukidale hair.
Yes. I mean, with
The
quarantine and stuff.
no problem on the quarantine. I got it just fine from Dave. He sent it to me. It takes a couple weeks. I'm going to tell you right now, use elk or horse.
Yes.
The guys in
I mean,
Australia don't have the opportunity to use elk, so they use the Tukidale, and that's fine. But if it's available here, I don't know about it. And a package, a little bit of stuff that you see laying over there costs more than $20 to ship it to me from Australia. You might work a deal out with them, but if you're just looking to go fishing and tie some good fishing flies, elk mane or horse mane is
Potts was my granddad's best friend.
oh
They both came,
wonderful.
yeah, they both came over from Germany at the same time, and they were school chums. And I remember him like tomorrow or like yesterday. But I've used moose mane as well. It's a little more fragile, but it will work.
I have too. I've also used squirrel tail, calf tail. I've tried everything under the sun, and today I tried Tukidale. So I don't. But
Yeah,
it's more of can I make it weave than when I head for the water, I want elk or horse.
yeah, I like elk. I never had good success with tying that horse. It's weird.
Trying to move on, guys, to another one.
If he
I'll
doesn't
I'll
mind.
I'll at least get you a body for the BT mite. Now this has nothing to do with us. That's just another one of the flies that Pot developed. The BT mite, and he didn't know me. As old as I am, I'm not quite that old. Anyway, but it's a dry fly hook, thread black, tail that has a tail, Tukidale hair, body Tukidale hair, and the hackle is woven Tukidale hair as well. And back at the vise, let's just take this guy and set him aside. And let me get another hook here.
While you're doing that, Paul wanted to know about poly yarn. And my suggestion is, Paul, why don't you give it a try and let us know how it works?
I think poly yarn probably wouldn't sink real well in the water column on a wet fly. Now, it doesn't mean it wouldn't work good for something else, but anyway, so now let me get over here. I had orange, I had white. I'm going to use white thread now to start here, just because I normally would use tan or gray, depending on what kind of hair I'm using, but I'm using white hair now, so I didn't want the black hair or whatever color. I'll just get us a thread base down here real quick. All right, now I need some for the body. And I'll pull me a bundle out for the body here. Lots of immature stuff in there, or smaller. Well, I assume it's immature. It is in other animals. The more slender hairs are the ones that haven't quite grown out all the way. I assume that's what I'm running into here. Getting rid of some of that. Okay, oh, didn't get it stripped out real good, but I don't want to waste a lot of time. But kind of running along. But I'm just going to go ahead and bind that in place. And now notice that I'm wrapping down into the bend. Now I'm going to come back and I'm going to get the tail material now. Now I need to straighten this. And I'll just use the fingernail or the thumbnail method to kind of take some of the bend out of it there. Now you take one turn under the tail or behind the tail or whatever you want to call it. And now you start coming forward. And I'll just let the material carry the thread forward, kind of like Dutch's technique for using that to anchor the peacock curl and so forth, so that it's in a little bit better shape. Let me just bind that down. Now, back in the day when I used to spin that stuff, I would then take and pull all this back and make a hackle out of it. But if you don't want to weave it, you can do that too. But I'll just trim that out. And let's trim the tail. All right, now I'm going to go back to the black thread. Alrighty. And here's a hackle that I'm going to attach. Dogleg that stem back, which is just nothing but a thread loop actually, and put my hackle pliers on the other side of the stem. And I'll dogleg that hackle back as well. And I'll get my bodkin out. All right. And it's about time to do a whip finish. Okay, there we go. Now this is going to be a little bit trickier to do because I've got a tail in there to get rid of, or to maintain and not cut it off accidentally. Now, so this could be a real Friday the 13th kind of a thing, because this is the first one of these flies I have ever tied right here, just now. So how am I going to do this? So I think I'll sneak in here like that. Cut that one off. And there we have the BT Mite Tukidale. It's the time in the presentation tonight when you all share with us.
Okay, here's the first one.
You're hired. Love that. Yes. Love that a lot. And you got the other one part done, huh?
Yeah, it's kind of hard to see because I haven't put the background in so you can see the white feathers.
Yep, sure can.
You see
Okay.
some, but they're not all there yet, so.
For sure, for sure. Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, thank you. Tell us about it.
Here is some
Those are the
original
real
pots.
thing.
That's the real thing. This
Yep.
one, that one in the clip is tied with badger hair.
Did you
So
tie that?
I tied that one.
All right.
And one more quickie. These are hackles ready to be put on, and there's, I think, 3 or 4 because I'm putting them on a 12 or 14 hook.
Sure, sure. Awesome. Thank you. You're doing a good job.
Thank you.
Who taught you to weave the hackle?
I've actually watched it on YouTube, and I bought a reproduced paper book, and I can't remember where I ordered it from. And then I've got, if I just another second, I'd like to show you the willow fly, and you may be familiar with this one. If you can see underneath it, it's, but it uses the wing back like that. This
Yeah.
one was tied. This one was tied by Dan Bailey out of Livingston, Montana, in the 50s and 60s.
Yep, I knew Dan well, very, very dear friend, and I knew his son John real well too.
That fly was tied by him.
Oh man, that is a valuable thing to have, partner.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. For now, it's a wrap until next time.